what we're going to go over today is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It is style agnostic, as I call it. The drills that we're going to go over are designed to make you think. Anybody who knows anything about me knows that I like making people think, and will apply to whatever you do, however you do, why ever you do. And to me, that's the beauty, the joy of these drills that we're going to go over. There's some people on here that I don't know, so just let me, oh, hey Bob. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Lesniak. I'm the host of Martial Arts Radio. I run this thing here, Whistlekick, that some of you are connected to. So thanks for coming by. And some of you came in after I said it, so I'll say it again. This video will get uploaded to YouTube on a separate channel. So if anybody wants to check out the video later, borrow these drills, use them in your own instruction, by all means, I am more than willing to share any and all of what's going on. So let's get started. So the title of this session is called The Magic of Slow. There are a lot of things that we do in life, and we recognize that we've got to go slowly before we can increase the pace, the intensity. We crawl before we walk, before we run. But in martial arts, we don't tend to do that so much. We understand as a white belt, or maybe the equivalent, that, you know, I've got to learn how to do these simple movements. But as things get a little bit more advanced, we throw the advanced stuff in, but we don't often give students the opportunity to train things slowly. And that creates some habits. Some of them are good, some of them maybe not so good. And so the purpose of these drills today is really to break you down, to bring you back to a really fundamental place and allow you to layer some things back in and decide, how do I want to train? How do I want to become the martial artist I want to be? And hopefully these drills will help you with that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, this is as much for me as it is for you. We're going to do some shadow boxing. So you all look like you have some space. Now, again, the magic of slow. So I don't want anybody to go fast. I just want you to kind of stay in your space and just move. We're just moving. We're throwing punches, we're throwing kicks, we're throwing elbows. Whatever techniques you use, you know, that's what I want you to do. Footwork is viable. I wouldn't say it's critical, but just go. We're going to do this for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, as I observe you. So I'm going to stop moving now. I'm going to watch you. All right. Everyone's moving well. Good. All right. Another 15 seconds or so. It's as good a time to warm up as any. It's one of the beauties of slow shadow boxing. We're just moving. We're moving. We're using our bodies. All right, great. Why don't everybody hold there? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring that speed down super duper slow. When I'm running drills with kids around this, I call it fight scene slow. If most of you have probably seen the movie The Matrix, Matrix slow, or really, you know, that kind of really exaggerated speed. If this drill, I prefer to run with partners, but we can't do that right now. No, I know some of you are in a room with another person, probably tempting. But when I teach this in sets of 2, I tell people that if you actually get a technique through, you're going too fast. This is blocking or defense priority. So I want you moving annoyingly slow. So go ahead. I want you to consider that you can't go too slow. And everything we're going to do the rest of this, the next 25 minutes, is going to be based around this pace. We're not looking for necessary, don't worry about power. Don't worry about anything other than you are moving. We're going to add some stuff to this. I'm going to give you some other things to think about. But right now, it's just about you moving very slowly and starting to embrace that speed. This is a gear. If we think about gears in a car, this is a gear that most of you probably don't have. And if you do, it's one you don't spend a lot of time in. There's some rust in there. You might have to, for those of you used to a standard transmission, you might have to press that clutch a few times to get that gear in. It might be a little bit sticky. Another 20 seconds or so. All right, great. Everybody hold there. So one of the reasons that we bring things down so slowly, and believe it or not, we're going to simplify this even more. You might be wondering, Jeremy, how are we going to slow it down more? I'm going to show you in a moment. You're going to do this. If you've ever worked with or been, which is all of us, a brand new student, you know how overwhelming it can be. Think about all the different hand techniques, foot techniques, stances you have, and then start to think about combining, 2 or 3 techniques at a time. It is overwhelming. The matrix of combinations, right? The permutations, if you're a bit of a math nerd like I am, is mind-boggling. And so then we expect someone who's just learning how to spar, okay, now do this. They're going to fall back on their most confident level of training, the lowest level of training, the thing that they feel that they can do. We all do this, where they're least likely to get hurt. This is why most of us, I'm certainly in this camp, I'll practice something, I'll work something. I know I've got to work on getting to the side. I know I need to work on doing X, Y, Z. And I'll practice it and practice it and practice it. And then the moment I get in sparring with someone, it falls apart. I'm not there. Anybody else experience that? Yeah. Almost everybody's hands are going up. And this is why. It's because when we start to add that stuff back in, we go too fast. Analysis paralysis. There are so many options of what to do. We do these things that we're really confident in, and it makes it really hard to progress. So we're going to break that down even more. So we're going to run through a number of 30 seconds. I'm going to tell you what you're allowed to use and not. We're going to maintain that same slow speed, and we're just going to go. So the first 30 seconds, it's shadowboxing. It's like we just did, but it's hands only.
I didn't pull it up on my computer.
So I'm doing the same thing I was. I'm just using hands. Blocks, strikes, open hand, closed hand, whatever works for you. So everybody go ahead. You can move around. You can use as much or as little footwork as you want. All right. Now, just your left hand. Your back. I just want you moving around, thinking about whatever you can do with your left hand. All right, now switch over to the right hand. There's not a lot that you can do with just one hand, right? It's just, it's here, it's here, it's here. But we're just going to keep moving. We're going to keep throwing. Whatever works, whatever makes sense to you. All right, now we're going to go back to that left hand, but I want you to think about the elbow too. Maybe you don't do elbows in your system, and that's okay, but I want you to think about elbows, elbow strikes, maybe a block, things like that. I want you to start thinking about some diversity using that arm. You get the whole arm. And now we're going to switch over to the right side. Same thing, right hand, right elbow. We're thinking about whatever we can do with that side, that quadrant of our body. Good, everybody's moving well. All right, now you get to use both hands again, but I don't want you to lose that fluidity that most of you are starting to pick up on. Both hands, both elbows, but we're still slow. Ruddocks, I want you guys to slow it down even more, half that speed. Remember, we're taking it back to matrix slow, painfully slow. I know some of what I've been demoing just for the sake of timeliness has gotten a little bit fast, and I apologize for that. Keep it super slow. The magic is in the slow. The title of this session is not an accident. We're going long on hands, and that's okay. Another 10 seconds. All right, let's bring it to feet. So those hands drop, and now we're moving. And if you're more comfortable, you can keep your hands behind your back, and we're just kicking. We're moving around, we're kicking, we're stepping. If you want to think about blocking with your legs, that's perfectly acceptable. But we're still trying to stay as slow as we can, as controlled as we can with our movement, maintain that extremely slow pace. Good. Now, just your left foot. I'm moving around. I don't have to hop on one foot, but I'm moving around and I'm only kicking with that left foot. Maybe you start thinking about varying that height. What happens when I kick low? What happens when I kick high? Good. All right, now we're going to switch over to the other side. Just your right foot. Nice job, everyone. All right, now we're going to go back to that left side, but I want you to think about the knee as an actual contact point and something intentional. I might kick here, and then I might think about that knee as a second point. Whether or not you use this, that's okay. I want you to flow. So move left from hip down to foot is all valid at this point. We're still staying slow. Try to resist the urge to throw any punches or anything like that. And now we're going to switch back to the right side. Again, hip down to foot. We get knee, heel, ball, whatever you want to do. If you're finding this stuff simple enough that you can add a layer of thought, Start thinking about what these techniques might be doing. Maybe you can visualize that partner or opponent you're working with. So now we're going to split your body completely differently. We did top, we did bottom. Now we're going to do left side. You get your left hand, left elbow, left knee, left foot. That's it. So it'd be like maybe I'm sparring here and I've got my right side back, and that's it. I'm still staying slow, super slow, just that left side. How am I going to combine those movements? Stay slow. Some of you are going faster. I know you're getting excited, but trust me, the magic is in the slow. That's why we're doing the right side of the body. All right, good. Everybody hold. Okay, so hopefully we're not working too hard. I think I posted. I didn't expect you guys were going to get sweaty. If you're getting sweaty, you're probably going a little bit faster than the intent. Now, if anybody's familiar with the 80-20 rule, it shows up in a lot of different places, and it shows up in martial arts too. 80% of the techniques that we're throwing, roughly, come from about 20% of what we know. Honestly, it's probably closer to 90-10. Most of what we throw in any kind of free-form scenario is very few techniques that we know. Maybe, we're throwing a handful of kicks, 2 or 3 punches, and yet we know dozens of things. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But the moment that you want to start adjusting that, adding some other things in, you need to create the space to be able to practice those. And I'm a big fan of doing that slowly. So again, if this was not over Zoom, we would have a variety of partner drills, and you can all probably figure out how these would incorporate with partners. And those of you that have the beauty of other practitioners in your home, if it makes sense, go ahead, train with those people. But as we move on here, I want you to continue to move slowly, but you're going to stay in constant motion. And in fact, that's the priority here. You're going to go as slowly as you have to not stop. I want something where if we were to speed it up, there would never be an opening because you're constantly moving. I know we could take issue with that statement that there would never be an opening, but I think you know what I mean. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop to think because I am moving so slowly that at any point I could freeze and see 46 different things I could do from this one position. And that's how slowly I'm going. So everyone start moving. Your entire body is an option now. Elbows, hands, knees, feet. And I want you to move. And one of the things you'll probably notice, if you're watching or watching yourself, if you're doing it right, if you're going slowly enough and you're open, it's going to start looking very Chinese, very kung fu-ish. And that's not to say that there's, I'm not saying that one style is better than another in any of that. I've never trained in Chinese martial arts. But as I start to move really slowly, I'm slow, and I'm moving and I'm thinking about where I'm going, it flows. And for a lot of us, that can be really challenging. Don't be afraid to add in footwork without kicking. For a lot of us, to step without throwing a kick is really foreign. Don't be afraid to mix that in. Keep going slow. Some of you are starting to speed up again. All right, now you're going to keep going. I'm going to talk to you. Nothing is going to change except for some of the priority that you put on some of these things. So the first thing that I want you to do is think about a concept called closest weapon, closest target. So I'm moving really slow and I just threw this punch here and I want to hit that person again. Maybe I'm going to step through and I'm going to elbow them. Maybe I'm going to then come down over the nose with a back fist. Maybe I'm going to throw a hammer fist there. I want you to start to add in some of these closest weapon, closest target. If I come through and I throw an elbow, this hand over here isn't the closest thing. Start to think about how that applies to your techniques. If you're not familiar with that concept, it's a great self-defense concept. Kevin, that's way too fast. Like 10 times too fast. Good. Now I want you to think about lateral movement. This could be similar if you know Nahanshikata or Teki, as we just move side to side laterally. I should be able to see you. You should be moving this way. All your toes are facing the screen and we don't come offline. What you throw and what direction is entirely up to you. Still hyper slow. Hopefully at this point, your brain is starting to engage and you're starting to realize, okay, I can throw and think about what my next movement is. That's the goal. That's what I want you to come away from this with. Same thing, but instead of lateral movement, we're going to start to move circularly. That person's coming in, we're stepping to the side. We're stepping around them as we defend, counter, however you view it. Start to visualize that person in front of you and see the potential, see the opportunities available to you. Next, we're back to whatever is normal footwork for you, but every time you pick up your foot, you have to throw at least 2 kicks. Could be here and then here. No requirements on what or how. I just want you to see kicking combinations. If you were working this drill with a partner, you'd start to see that that foot can be a block just as well as a strike. Let those wheels turn. What are the options? And then the last focus piece before we move on, what I call the rule of 3. In this context, you're going to think about whatever that person is that you're addressing, 3 techniques before you change direction. So maybe I'm here, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go right into over here. 1, 2, 3, and then I change direction again. 3, and then change direction. Good. Everybody looks great. Remember, you can't do this too slowly. All right, everybody hold for a second. Got a couple minutes left. The final drill to this is completely freeform. My hope is that as we've broken things down, as you went to, oh, just the left side of my body, just the right side of my body, you start to realize that if you allow things to flow, there are far more opportunities available to us than we tend to see. The more we try to process what's in front of us, the harder it is. And so by bringing that speed way down, you actually have the opportunity for your brain to process. And you can become far more comfortable handling what's coming at you and responding to it. So for the next 3 minutes, you're going to throw whatever you want, however you want, wherever you want, as long as it is super duper slow. And I want you to start visualizing attackers, whether this is self-defense or sparring is entirely up to you. And I want you to think about constant motion and how one technique plays off the next. You've all been doing this, so this is your chance for me to talk less and for you to do it. Go ahead. The hardest working muscle on your body right now should be your brain. You should be thinking through everything and going so slow that you can consider half a dozen options and pick the one that seems the best. Good. Two more minutes. Think. What comes next? Some of you are starting to speed back up. Bring it back down. I want you to resist that urge to step back into the patterns that you have. If you're speeding back up, it's your body trying to say, I'm not comfortable here, and that's good. One more minute. Thirty seconds. All right. Everybody looks good. Okay, hold. All right.